Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Olivia Roth, and I'm the Associate Director of Student Affairs for Penn Engineering Online Learning. And I have a guest today, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Emily Perry, and I'm the Associate Director of Professional Development and Networking for Penn Engineering. And today I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about breaking into the tech industry.
Yeah, so Emily started with us recently, and we're super excited to have her on the team. She supports all of Penn Engineering in various ways, but the online students as well. I just wanted to mention we have, there's a tool for posting your questions. So it's a Q&A tool within Zoom. So as you think of questions, go ahead and post them in the Q&A tool. And we'll probably save questions for the end of Emily's presentation. And then also, if you're on the phone, joining us by phone, we don't really have a method for you to submit questions right now, but we are going to record this and post it later. You can always send us emails at online-learning@cs.upenn.edu. That's on our website, and we'll make sure it gets to Emily if need be. Okay, so let's go ahead and we could also ask our polling questions.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is fun. So we have these polling questions. I'm going to launch them now. So we're just curious a little bit about where you all are in your careers, whether you have, been in contact with MCIT Online in the past, and where you are in your career. So I will keep this open for a little while and let people respond. Meanwhile, I think I can share the presentation.
Okay. Lots of career changers. Makes sense.
It does. Yeah, and people just starting to be exposed to the program, or maybe just starting an application.
Yeah, a good amount of people who start an application. Way to go.
Yeah. That's cool. This is a fun to see it moving in real time. But I think I will go ahead and move this away now. Yeah, we can share the results here. And now let's get started.
All right, well, so today I'm going to give everyone sort of a high-level idea about how you can break into the tech industry. Many of you are just starting, thinking about programs and trying to gain some information. So I want to try and be as specific as possible to help you make these decisions and assess these things in the best way possible. So my first 2 points are really being open to exploring and envisioning yourself in this new role or in a different role per se. So first of all, ask yourself who you know already. If you have a close friend or an uncle or a friend of a friend who are already working in this industry, you might want to connect with them and ask them a question that's a little bit more than, oh, how's work going? Or, hey, how are things? You might want to be a little bit more intentional and have a more thought out question with them. If you can connect with people who you already know, you'll usually get better, deeper, more tailored insights because they know who you are and they have a sense about where you're going. So starting with your warmest connections is always the best advice I can give. The next point there is informational interviews, and I can just feel everyone's eyes roll. I don't like the term, it seems out of date, but it is how we want you to gain information. So talking to people who are in this industry or working for a company that you find interesting is a great way to uncover information that you can't find from reading things online. Asking people very pointed questions, asking them what they don't like about their jobs, trying to figure out where you fit into this giant world can really be helpful if you have someone in that world, immersed in it, helping you envision yourself there. I make that point of being open to sharing uncertainties and receiving authentic feedback. So the more organic that you can push for your conversations to be, the more you'll get out of it. This is a huge experience in reflection. And in your day-to-day, we don't have the time to reflect. No one has time to really take a moment to say, where am I going and where do I want to be? So building the space to do that is really helpful. Then you want to get a little bit more specific. So are you open to relocating? For my career changers out there, are you willing to move to the West Coast where things are booming? Are you willing to think about your surroundings and think about being a little bit more mobile or remote in the type of work that you're doing? Are there any specific companies, job types, or industries that you're really passionate about in particular? Is there a certain problem that you want to solve, that you want to be that person who's positioned yourself to learn these new skills and completely begin a new journey? These are the types of things that are really important to consider and explore.
I just realized I was going to be asking you questions. I'm getting back to my job. So what program specifics should a person consider when evaluating best fit for their needs and career goals?
So this is, I'm actually going to skip to this next slide.
Okay.
Real quick. Yeah, sorry. So when you're thinking about a program, you really want to ask yourself all kinds of questions. I think sometimes students will get stuck and just think about admissions and what are the requirements, but instead you want to get to know a lot more about the program itself. So what are the prerequisites? What are some of their admission statistics? Sometimes for these newer programs, it's harder to find those out. We might not have information, but trying to ask those questions is really important. Do they have part-time, full-time, remote options? Does the coursework match your career goals? This is something that as these programs are popping up, it's really important to ask yourself, what skills am I going to learn? We're going to talk a little bit about our program at the end, but understanding what you're going to get out of it and what the courses are truly going to cover is key to assessing a program. How many years to graduation? This is asking averages as well as what do you envision yourself doing? Being realistic with your other commitments. So if you have a family, a full-time job, these are things that you really have to consider and plan out. Then there are other things, so like opportunities for self-teaching. Does your program have other supports built in to help you in addition to the curriculum that they've created? And then what are those additional supports? Do they have TAs? Do they have open office hours? Do they have any additional resources that they're constantly showcasing to their students? And do any of your professors do podcasts or have extra things on the side that students are obsessed with? Trying to assess those types of support systems. You won't find all of that on a website, but asking the questions of your programs, of your admissions counselors can really give you a lot of insight. Then you want to ask yourself, boot camps versus degree programs. This is a question we get all the time.
Well, this is right, kind of part of the same overall topic. Right?
Yeah, as you're exploring what makes the most sense for you. Mm-hmm. So with boot camps, overall, you can imagine a lot of times their cost is a little bit less. Mm-hmm. They're usually a lot more accelerated and intensive. Certain companies will sometimes have internal boot camps. So they'll realize that their workforce needs to brush up on a certain technical skill. They'll set up a boot camp. Usually it's free of charge for their employees, and their employees do it. If that's happening for you, go for it. That's an awesome opportunity. Whenever you can upskill, you want to. Mm-hmm. But if you're thinking about that next step, you might want to consider a degree program, mainly because while the cost is sometimes more than boot camps, you're learning established practices. You're really immersing yourself in the theory. You're also getting to know your university and you're having connections to an accredited program. The biggest difference is with boot camps, if you are looking to career change or move up in a career, you are going to have to showcase your technical skills through a portfolio. They're going to look at you and say, okay, you completed this program. As an employer, I need to see how you apply those skills. So I need to have the proof that you know how to do certain things. Right. When you do a degree program, there's a little bit more trust. The accreditation makes you a little bit more, I want to say, trustworthy, or they can understand where your skills lie. At that point, it's then just showcasing your breadth of skills more in interview.
I'm just gonna say, we have a helicopter going by. This is real talk. Hopefully it's not too distracting. Should we go back to those other slides?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Somebody important might be visiting campus. Let's see, we're on this. Okay, here we go.
So now that you've explored, you've maybe looked at differences in programs, you're trying to figure out what makes the most sense for you. Another thing that you can do is begin to immerse yourself in this new culture, in this new industry. And I recommend that everyone begin to build a resource bank. I actually started at Penn working with this new version of students, and I have been doing this myself. So as someone who just started a new job, I have really started following new people on social media, trying out new podcasts, following new thought leaders on LinkedIn and seeing what they're talking about. Whenever you can immerse yourself in a new culture, you learn so much more than what you can do with like really high level Google searches. They just won't give the same level and insight that you're looking for. Some relevant resources that I found helpful are Dice, TechCrunch. HackerRank is really interesting. That's sort of the perspective of people hiring people in tech. Getting that perspective is really interesting as someone who's trying to position yourself as someone who is a desirable candidate in that field.
Cool. And then I guess you talked about this already. Yeah, I think LinkedIn can be an underutilized resource for sure. Or I know for myself, it's like, I filled out my profile and then that's about it.
That is sort of why I have there the whatever media you usually consume. So don't all of a sudden say, okay, I heard everyone's on Twitter, I'm now going to be on Twitter doing different things. If you're not naturally already using a resource, it's hard to change your habit to all of a sudden start to check it. So I say begin with the media that you normally consume, because the habit will be more easy to form. You'll more seamlessly begin to explore that industry than if you all of a sudden try and form like a new, all right, I'm gonna like 3 LinkedIn posts today and I'm gonna follow these 5 people. If you're not doing that naturally, it's hard to actually continue to do.
That makes sense.
We had a ton of questions about labor and market trends of what is going to happen to me as someone who wants to get into the tech world. Good news, everything is going to be great for you. If you are pivoting into a job in technology, you're sort of jumping on a big wave for employment. I pulled these statistics because I thought they were really eye-opening and they really represented what's going on. So the Department of Labor Statistics projects that software engineering jobs are going to increase 21% from 2018 to 2028. They talk about an increase in tens of billions of dollars in machine learning. And then that last bullet point I think is so interesting because it talks about what kinds of applications different companies are now using. So whenever I say, oh, well, the market's going to grow 21%, that's sort of meaningless for some people. Like a lot of that is GDP or looking at like the larger economies, but you're wondering, how do I fit into that gargantuan idea?
Right.
So here you can think about computer-assisted diagnostics, call center virtual assistants. Whenever you're having a problem and you have to call a call center, we now all have chat bots who will come up on their website and say, hey, can I help you? That's not a person, that's like a machine learned thing. Think about all the ways that as you're interacting and living through your life, you're seeing so much more of this everywhere. And they need people behind these things in order to actually make them work. That is why this growth is so big. It's because things like artificial intelligence are true disruptors and are truly taking over the world, and not in a scary way.
Yeah, and you can be a part of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so let's see where we are here. So Emily, how does our program, MCIT Online, address a student's skill development related to the tech industry?
So that was something that I had to learn right away when I started the role of what classes are they taking and what are the actual practical things our students are taking away. So as someone who is working with one program, it's important for me to be able to communicate to employers what do our students have, because I can help our students then communicate that. So if you look at the MCIT Online degree program specifically, the type of technical skills that you'll gain are Java, C, object-oriented programming, data structures, dynamic programming, network flows. These are the buzzwords that people will be working into their resumes. These are the terms they'll be working into their elevator pitches. These are the types of technical skills they might have to deal with or work through in a technical interview. But these are the things that when our students graduate, they say, I have these strong technical skills.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that every person has to recognize and realize is that just because you might be career changing or pivoting into a new field, and you're doing this by doing a degree program, everything that you've done before that is still immensely relevant.
Yeah.
So I have bolded transferable skills on this slide to say that your technical skills are not replacing, but they are strategically being shared, and they are augmenting your transferable skills. So it's something that as you think of yourself as someone who is in the workforce and in the labor market, how are you upskilling yourself, and how are you bringing and adapting and growing your transferable skills to fit into these new markets?
Yeah, and just to add on to that, I mean, so just briefly, the MCIT Online degree is a computer science degree designed for people without a computer science background. And I think one of the things that's so powerful about that is that we have students who come from all kinds of different backgrounds, right? So we have people from a liberal arts background, maybe from math background, or finance. We have people in publishing and reporting and chemistry, pharmaceuticals, all kinds of backgrounds. And so these people have, when you have that background and then you combine it with these computer science skills, I think personally a person like that would be even more employable and more desirable for an employer, because you have more of a wider breadth of skills. You're like exercising both sides of your brain a little bit more. You can have conversations with people who are non-technical. And those things are all really powerful. So it's like a super combo.
And your technical skills are something an employer can measure. They can give you a coding test and you can complete it, and you can be at your work and you can be using those technical skills. The fact that you are a lifelong learner, that you're someone who's curious about new industries, these are all immeasurable things that employers are constantly trying to assess in candidates. What makes you tick? Why are you great? Why do I want you part of my team? So being able to tell this story of, I have this whole past experience, I am so dedicated and interested in new things that I have dedicated myself to this new learning, and now I'm prepared for this next step. It really showcases a lot of immeasurable things that employers are really interested in.
Yeah, and in terms of grit, I mean, most of our students are full-time mid-career working professionals who are taking these classes on the side. And that's pretty challenging. I mean, these are rigorous courses. And so just the fact that, people, like you said, took the initiative to pursue this degree later on in life, perhaps, and are successful in it, it says a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. What else should a person consider when they're trying to break into the tech industry without much relevant experience?
So I talk a little bit about internships. This is something that our students have asked us about, and there are pros and cons. So like we had said, a ton of our students are working full-time. So the con of an internship is, why would I quit my full-time job where I have benefits and I support my family and things are just stable for me? And I say, yes, definitely. Stay in your full-time job that you're enjoying, that's supporting you in your lifestyle now. An internship might not be a good fit. The pros of an internship are pretty obvious. So you get to try out a company, you get to grow your skills, you get to create a new network, you get to immerse yourself in a culture and in a new industry and get sort of that insider feeling. So when you're thinking about programs, you want to ask, well, do they have an internship program? Are people doing internships? What sort of support do they have there? That's sometimes helpful and an important thing to consider. It's also one of those envision and explore questions for yourself. Do I want to do this? Is this a good fit? And then the power of projects, so important. So as someone who might not be able to do an internship, or as any student who's going back to school and gaining a new skill set, projects are so powerful in showcasing the application of your new technical skills. So through your curriculum, you'll be working on projects. You'll be working on things to be able to apply and learn these new technical skills. But then you can go a little bit farther. you can work on a passion project. Maybe there's something you've always wanted to do, you didn't know how. Finally, you understand the technical side of building the thing that you want. You can work in teams. Other students are constantly asking me, oh, I want to get involved in projects. How do I do that? Sometimes it's the power of your own idea, and you can work on it that way. But then industries and companies will always have different projects and competitions. So there are coding challenges, case competitions, hacker competitions. Honestly, there's a lot of ways that companies will find their next best ideas through a hacking challenge. It's wild to me. It's free for them to get great ideas. And then the student, on the other hand, is learning a lot. So realizing that if you can't do an internship, the power of your projects and showcasing your application of technical knowledge that way is really, really important. So making sure that you ask about what kind of projects do we work on? Do you support other ways of student learning or student connections? That's really helpful.
Yeah, and so it becomes kind of a digital portfolio, is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I like that idea.
And then, yeah, sometimes people like have examples on GitHub, on their personal websites. Writing about it in a resume is so important. It's another layer of an interview question and answer that you can build for yourself. It also showcases leadership and time management. The fact that you are working full time, taking these hard new classes, and you've also accomplished this side thing. Wow, that's really impressive.
Something like kind of concrete that you can show and talk about. So what advice would you give for changing careers in midlife or mid-career from something into the tech or programming development area?
I think something else related to this, we got some questions about, nerves about age discrimination in the tech industry. You see all these young CEOs and people in these startups who are really in their like early 20s to late 30s, and it's intimidating for some folks who might be changing mid-career. So I do have some tips. Number one is communicating and owning your brand. So we had mentioned transferable skills before. I'm going to mention them again because they're really important. Being able to recognize and communicate and tailor your transferable skills to this new industry is going to be so important. Whenever any student is applying to a job, we talk to them about how it's really important to tailor your application, tailor your story, tailor your brand to that unique position. When I have folks who are changing midlife, a lot of times they have a hard time communicating all of the great experiences they've had in this one simple digestible brand to this new role. So I think it's doing a reflective and immersive sort of audit of your transferable skills and figuring out what's the best story to get me to my next step. Some more tangible things that you can do to battle age discrimination: don't include your graduation year on your resume. On your resume, you only want to leave about like the past 10 years of experience on there. If you're talking about more than 10 years ago, it should be really relevant to the job that you're applying for. You also want to make sure that all of your documents are up to date. So your LinkedIn looks nice, you have a nice sharp picture, you're wearing a nice shirt, good lighting, that's important. And then your resume.
I guess you're saying it should be accurate to how old you are.
Yes, yeah, accurate, right? Don't catfish anyone in these scenarios. And just make sure that your resume also is up to date, that you've looked at some of the newer templates that are out there, that you've thought about the story that you want to tell and things like that. And then finally, the power of networking. So the advantage that a lot of people have who are changing midlife is that they've already networked. Networking becomes second nature to you when you've been in the industry for so long, when you've been working for so long. So many new students might feel intimidated or uncomfortable with doing that outreach. Whenever you get the chance, you want to talk about your inspiration for making this change. And whenever you can enthusiastically showcase that energy of, I lived this life and now I'm excited for this next step, people will listen and your age doesn't become a factor.
Yeah, and just anecdotally, I will say that in the MCIT Online program, we admitted our fourth cohort this past January, and we have people of all different ages. I mean, really, we have, I'd say the average age is probably 30s, but there's a wide range on either side of that. And so, I mean, I personally believe in being able to reinvent yourself. Yeah. Our brains are still plastic to a certain extent, even after we're teenagers.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I will say that just in terms of readying yourself for new experiences, anything that you can do in terms of online learning to expose yourself to, for example, Coursera has a lot of different non-credit courses. There's other platforms as well. And if you're applying to this program, it's really helpful to see, okay, this person has taken the initiative to experience some kind of online education. Just because when you're starting a new career, there's a lot to acclimate to. The culture is different, you know, obviously the content is different and new. And so if you have some comfort level with just the interface of online platforms, that helps you get ahead as well. Okay, I think we have some time for questions. So I know people have been submitting questions through the Q&A tool, and we're going to take a look at a few of them and see what we can do for answering them for you.
So we had one question from which kind of industries are students coming from most of the time? Our biggest industry is the finance and business industry, but then we also, it is really a mixed bag. So that's definitely our largest is folks coming from finance, business, consulting. But then we have students who have worked in academia, all over the place.
Yeah, and I would just like to put out a plug for diversity, because I think it's so enriching to have more diversity in the community. I remember when we had, you know, people applying with zoology backgrounds, and we were so happy, like, you know, somebody applied whose background was in like weather sciences. And again, that just adds so much. I mean, certainly a goal of ours as a program is to increase diversity within our community, but I think also even within the field of computer science is important as well. So we're really open to any backgrounds. It's just whatever background you have, it's helpful in applying to demonstrate some quantitative ability and aptitude and passion.
For sure.
Yeah.
We had another question here. Let's see. Will I be able to elaborate a bit more about the possible career opportunities with this degree? So we actually don't have any alumni from the MCIT Online program, which is exciting because we're really at the very beginning of our program. And it's going to be so exciting when we finally do have people graduate to see where they go.
That'll happen this year.
Yes, but many of our on-campus students end up working as software engineers and in machine learning. That's probably the two largest career outcomes that we see. And for some of the top companies, so Amazon, Google, Microsoft, we have many of our top companies hiring our students. And then we've actually had a lot of interest in students who say, you know what, I'm interested in something a little bit different, or I'm passionate about ed tech or using technology for social good. So that's something that I'm personally working on to try and create inroads for our students who might not want the big names, or they might want to see what else is out there. So being able to connect them with all different kinds of job opportunities, relying on our alumni network has been really helpful. So we've had a few questions here about, you know, how are you connected to on campus? How are you connected to Penn in general? I've been using a lot of our alumni resources, and so far have found the alumni are so happy to give back to our students. And I think that's one of the most valuable things for these folks who are looking for those types of jobs.
Yeah, and I will say that even though we don't have graduates yet for the online program, our numbers are growing. And so I think that there's some momentum with the MCIT community itself in terms of the online students. We use, once students are admitted, we use Slack for peer-to-peer communication. And I see so much activity there and people supporting each other. We have channels that are specifically devoted to, you know, career engagement. And so, you know, we already have people saying like, hey, my company is hiring. If you're interested, let me know. We have people who connect with each other within geographic regions. We facilitate in-person meetups sometimes. And again, I mean, an MCIT Online student is a Penn student and will be a Penn alumni. So immediately you'll have access to the entire Penn, at large network as well.
We have some questions about career fair and do we have access to the same things as they have on campus. So our students currently do not have access to on-campus career fairs, but it's something that I'm trying to find even better replacements for. So as an MCIT Online student with Penn, you have access to one-on-one career counseling with me. Once students have completed their 6 core courses, we can meet anytime to have one-on-one chats about where you want to go professionally, what your interests are, things like that. And then I'm working to build employer relationships so that we can have employers come and do virtual info sessions, and then alumni come back and do info sessions as well. Because we recognize that if you are doing an online program, you are still wanting that authentic connection. That's something that we found out as we were setting up our in-person meetups, realizing that many of these students, while you're completing your courses online, still really want that ability to connect and talk and make those connections. So I'm working hard to make those employer connections for our students, and you have career counseling with me anytime. I also do skill building webinars, so things like how to write a resume, how to do a job search, things like that. I routinely sort of send out content to help our students with those developmental milestones.
Yeah, another thing to point out is that University of Pennsylvania has these alumni clubs all over the world. And once a student is admitted as a Penn student, you have access to those. So what's exciting about that is, Penn's campus is in Philadelphia, but these clubs are physically located around the globe. And so if you might be in a bigger city that has a local club like this, you could participate in that way. So again, we also try to travel as a program whenever we can. Whenever our faculty travel, we'll alert all the students in that area that the faculty are coming around for, so they can grab coffee, or people have met up in, Singapore and the Bay Area, lots of different places.
I think a good question for you on here.
Okay.
Can you talk a little bit about time management and doing an online program?
Yeah, that's a great question. Like I said, the majority of our students are mid-career working professionals, and so it can be pretty challenging to balance schoolwork on top of your full-time job, and perhaps you have family as well, hopefully friends, or extracurricular activities. So I would say that in the beginning, I always advise students to take fewer classes at a time in order to kind of gauge how it is for them personally. It's very difficult to give out blanket advice because everybody has different backgrounds. Perhaps some people have more exposure to math than others, or more exposure to online learning, let's say, in the past. But in order to set yourself up for success, I encourage being conservative in the beginning, and for example, taking one course in your first semester of the program, because again, during that time, you're acclimating to a lot of different things. And once you have that experience of, okay, so, it takes me this number of hours I found to study per week, and I'm finding like, wow, I still have tons of free time. I could take 2 classes that next semester at a time, then that's great. But I think definitely the 1 class at a time pace works better. We do have some resources that are program-wide regarding the time management, and a lot of, I would say, students at this point in our program also have some wisdom about that topic. Just techniques in terms of setting aside time for studying. I think there's a small portion of people for whom they're able to sort of do everything on the weekends, but for the most part that doesn't work as well, because again, this content is challenging, and your brain has to almost like rewire a little bit in how you think, and that takes time, right? So I mean, I call it like percolation time. You want to schedule in time to let the concept sink in. So I would say it's doable, but I think it's also a very important question to ask yourself before you start the program, in terms of like, how much time in a week do I really have spread out throughout the week? And I would say for one course, our students report that they spend about 13 to 15 hours per week on average. So that could be lower, again, depending on person's background and style, but it can be even more than that, obviously, because that's the average, right? So it's certainly rigorous, and as Emily was saying, I mean, compared to a boot camp will teach you one particular programming language, let's say, but this program teaches you the underlying theoretical fundamentals, to the point that by the time you finish the core courses, you have such a thorough understanding of the inner workings that you could teach yourself any programming language, which is, again, kind of a superpower in my mind. And not everybody needs that for their career, but if you do need that, and if you feel the drive to pursue that, it can make you so incredibly adaptable. I think in a world where things are changing so very rapidly.
Yeah. I had a question about how valuable are course certificates. So I would say a similar answer to the bootcamp. Whenever you're assessing certificate, single class, bootcamp, degree program, what you're asking yourself is, what skills am I gaining from this?
Mm-hmm.
So if the certificate at a university includes information where you're gaining a brand new technical skill, I would say that's very valuable. If it's a certificate where you're learning unique, new, interesting things to you that makes you a happier, interested person, that has value in and of itself. So I think it's really just assessing, what am I getting out of this program, and how is that going to help me in the future, personally or professionally as well.
Yeah, and I would say from an admissions standpoint, it's always viewed favorably when somebody has, for example, an online certificate in really probably any topic. I can't say what percentage of goodwill it imbues, but it's definitely viewed positively.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's see here. I got a question about, what about the fields related to law graduate interested in legal tech industry? So I'm going to apply that question to anything.
Yeah.
So if you have a background in something and you have found a tech bubble related to your interest. So we have a ton of teachers who are now coming back to this program who are really interested in ed tech. A lot of times what happens is, in your current role, you're exposed to something new. So maybe you're a lawyer and all of a sudden you're exposed to these new legal technologies that you are finding, wow, this is really interesting, or is this ethical, and should I be a part of building the next thing that's going to be impacting my industry? No matter what background you are, soon you will be seeing technology involved. So if you're in any background and you're exposed to these types of things, sometimes that might be one of our best students, because you have had one-on-one experience with this technology. It has piqued an interest. It made you ask a question. And then if you're prepared and ready and excited to actually learn and dig in with that technology, I would say this is a great fit for you.
Yeah. One thing I was going to say before is that if you're wondering whether online learning in general is something that you would fit into your life, we actually have an assessment quiz that you can take, and I'm going to ask my team to paste that in the chat tool for you. And it doesn't give you, it's not like a magic 8-ball that at the end it tells you what you should do, but I think it's a nice self-assessment tool to show kind of what some of the considerations you might want to take into account. Like, for example, how much exposure you've had in the past, how much free time you have, that sort of thing. So I think that can be kind of a helpful self-assessment.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see here. Someone asked about, they mentioned that they're an entrepreneur. There's a lot of interest in entrepreneurship in our program, so much so. I actually hosted a peer-to-peer networking event where we had students who were interested in some sort of theme get together on Zoom and chat about that theme together. I actually had entrepreneurship be one of the themes for the program because so many students had expressed interest in it. That group has actually started a Slack channel within our community, and they are all sharing ideas. They are meeting up in person. It's something that is definitely a large part of our student culture, I would say. Mm-hmm. And it's something that I'm working on to continue to figure out how can I support this. Trying to get alumni. We have professors who have started their own companies. So starting to share that with our students is one of my goals. It's just really important, I think really relevant for many of our students who have been working for a little bit or maybe have already been immersed in startups who want to start their own thing. So yes, there's a ton of interest in that field as well.
Yeah, well, I was also introduced to a new term, which is digital nomad.
So cool.
Yeah, there's some interest in this idea that I think is the idea that if you have a skill set, you can kind of be a freelancer and do your work from anywhere in the world digitally, so that you can be more mobile and nomadic, which is which is an exciting lifestyle for some people.
Yeah, I had another student mention that they're currently working in the financial industry. Huge group of our students. We had said that we have a ton of students who had an undergrad in finance or business, but many of those students are looking not so much to career change as to move into a tech team in their current companies. Mm-hmm. Or many of the students I've connected with have had that sort of taste of working with technology. Maybe they have consultants coming and working on their teams to implement new technology, and they find it so interesting that financial technology, fintech is huge for our students. Wharton has a really good fintech podcast that they present. And it's just something that our students are really interested in and very relevant for many of our current students. Let's see.
I guess if you, just wanted to say that if you have questions that are a little bit more related to MCIT admissions. The reason we wanted to present this webinar is that in terms of breaking into the tech industry, I think this degree is very relevant because, again, like whether you're a career changer or even just a career advancer, you know, we've talked a lot about career changing, but we also have people who want to stay in their particular industry and maybe whether it's innovate in that field or to just be able to have conversations and understand their more technical counterparts at work. That's definitely a worthwhile endeavor as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have, I think, a really solid program. Our on-campus program has been around for 18 years. I want to say maybe 19 now. Mm-hmm. So it's a very established curriculum, and it's a brand that is becoming very known among top tech companies. And as our online population increases, I think, you know, we'll have even more people as spreading the word among employers about what this is, because, you know, it's true, the name of it is a little bit unusual. It's Master of Computer and Information Technology, but it's not an IT degree. It's really more similar to a Master of Science in Computer Science. Mm-hmm. It's just, it's a different credential because the person doesn't have that undergrad at CS. So what it represents is kind of an acceleration in curriculum. So in these 6 core courses, it brings you up to speed and very swiftly. And like I said, a lot of brain changes going on in there. So eat your vitamins while you're taking this degree. And it's intense. So we don't want to scare people away, but we also want people to have, you know, a somewhat realistic view of, you know, again, how much time they have. In terms of the application, again, it helps to demonstrate in any way passion, because you need to have, you know, stick with itness.
Yeah.
Even just, not even just for, well, I was gonna say for coding. Coding can be, I think, from what I hear, frustrating at times. but yeah, it's, I think also as an adult, and a lot of our students are sort of chronic overachievers. It's hard to be bad at something again, and it's hard to like go back to that sort of vulnerable place of not knowing what's going on and not feeling competent. And the thing is, the fellow students are there with you as well. Again, there's a range of backgrounds, but we're working on ways of connecting students even more so, like with volunteer mentoring programs. We have our first online club that launched, and they are extremely prolific in their programming and in their outreach and their ideas. And again, it's really exciting to see things organically come out of the student body.
Yeah,
because you see it's rising from that passion.
There was a question of, do admitted students need to have a core programming experience? The answer is no.
Oh, no. No, it's better if you don't have programming experience. So again, people, I think we say it and then people are like, yeah, but is that really true? No, it's really true. The degree is for people who do not have a programming background. So really, the prerequisite is having a bachelor's degree from an accredited university. That being said, it's also very helpful to demonstrate in any way quantitative ability and skill and interest. That will help set you apart from the crowd, I would say.
What do I recommend for students that just started programming and are currently learning the fundamentals, trying to gain an early edge with an internship projects? That's really going to be my answer, because when you're applying for internships, they're looking for basic knowledge, but they also understand a lot of times that you're at the very beginning. So for example, our students learn Java, and if they're going into a technical interview, employers for internships will say, you can choose the language that you're going to take this interview with. So if you are just starting out and you feel comfortable with a certain language, my recommendation is start to do projects to be able to showcase the application of that knowledge. Because that's what employers are looking for. They're open-minded to teaching you different things. They're open-minded because really they're going to have to. These employers are going to have to hire you and teach you so much of the way that they do things. So instead they're looking for your problem-solving skills. Are you creative? Are you open-minded? Are you a good communicator? So you can showcase all of those things through your projects and through your interviews.
Yeah, that's so true. Just going back to what I was saying before, you can't know all of the technical knowledge that there is anymore in this world. And so what's more important is the ability to be able to learn, to be open to it, to have the tools to problem solve and teach yourself.
Yeah. But then that leads me to this next question of, does college education matter as much, or could I save money by taking online courses? So, if you are someone who really can be very self-disciplined and sit down and teach yourself how to code on your own, then you could do that. But the thing that we see when people say, I'm going to just teach myself, the stick-to-itiveness is not there. When you run into a problem, you don't have the support to figure out what the problem is. And a lot of times people who say, I'm just going to self-teach, it ends up not working out. That's why people do end up relying on boot camps or these types of degree programs, because they know that structures are set up where they're actually going to learn how to apply those skills.
Yeah, I think it also depends what you're looking for, right? Because I've had people talk to me about, like, I want to increase my skills as an IT manager, let's say. Okay, well, so that wouldn't be a fit necessarily for this particular degree program.
Right.
There are other things that a person could do that would be a lot easier than the classes that we have.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of it is really a personal decision. And as Emily said, I think you could easily be very employable without having a degree, but the degree provides structure. It provides, ours provides a name with it, University of Pennsylvania, and the network. I think that that's probably very valuable, not only, I guess monetarily, but just for the soul, because it's friends too. And it's funny because you might think like, well, it's online, how could that really happen? But I've seen it happen already. And there are possibilities of meeting up in person and really connecting if that's something that you're looking for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's
Getting to the bottom of the barrel there.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you again so much for joining us today, and thank you to Emily for joining us. So again, we are going to be posting this video so people can watch it on demand. And I just wanted to follow up and say, again, MCIT Online is something that is open for fall 2020. We have an early application deadline coming up on March 1st. Our regular deadline is May 1st. And we have a really awesome admissions team that's available for questions. So again, if you check out our website, we have a pretty robust FAQ section. If you have further questions, you can send us an email at online-learning@cs.upenn.edu. You can give us a call. Our phone number's on the website. And we're also started rolling out Zoom sessions for like one-on-one talks with admissions counselors. I think those are mostly filled up right now for the early deadline, but we will roll out more, and the link for that is on our website as well. All right, I think we're going to sign off. Bye, everybody.
Bye.